In today's news for you, did you know a fugitive slave from Sumter County may have inspired the best-selling book Uncle Tom's Cabin by Harriet Beecher Stowe? Susanna Ashton, a professor of American literature at Clemson University, is convinced that's the case. Professor, first of all, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
All the way from Clemson. We're glad you and some students came. But how is it that you concluded that this man from Sumter County who was a slave ended up being the inspiration for a best-selling book? I mean, Uncle Tom's Cabin?
Well, it was the second best-selling book of the 19th century, second to the
next
Bible.
To the Bible, right.
Well, the story came together. I've been writing about John Andrew Jackson. I'm putting a book together about his life.
That being the slave from Sumter County.
Exactly. And he escaped from Sumter. He made it to Charleston and then up to Boston on a boat. And he was in Massachusetts for a little while, but it was too dangerous for him to stay. And so at this point, he hooked up with the Underground Railroad. And with a lot of help, he slowly made his way up north to Canada. And along the way, we know he stopped in many different houses and was helped by many people. He wrote the story of his life some 12 years later, and he mentioned that he had visited and spent time with Harriet Beecher Stowe. And as I was writing and working out his story, I realized suddenly he had visited her with his time frame before she had written her novel. As a matter of fact, probably about 7 weeks before she had written her novel.
And you ended up getting a hold of a letter at Yale University. Tell me about that and the connection with all this.
Right. Well, Harriet Beecher Stowe had written a letter, which other scholars and experts have dated to right about this precise time, in which she talked about how a tremendous life experience had happened for her, where she had met enslaved people and free people of color. She was involved somewhat in the abolitionist movement in Ohio. She had visited Kentucky. But it wasn't until this day in Maine where she opened the door and a man was there desperate and needing help. And she hid him in her home. She had a 6-month-old baby, I believe, and 3 children under the age of 12 in the house with her. She was violating a law under tremendous draconian penalties, very dangerous situation,
no
and she opened her heart. She didn't hesitate, and it affected her, and I believe it also really affected John Andrew Jackson. And so we can talk about, did he help inspire this book? I think he did. He was part of the chain of events that brought about this tremendously important anti-slavery novel but he also went on to write his own book. And so I think this encounter, maybe it inspired, I like to think it empowered both Jackson and Stowe to act on their convictions about telling their truth.
Well, this is 2013, and to know this book written in 1852, for you to come to this conclusion, thanks for coming and sharing it with our viewers. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
And great game by Clemson the other day, too. I know you guys were so excited. To watch the full interview again with Professor Susanna Ashton, follow me on Twitter at Dawndy WISTV. Also, click like on my Facebook page, Dawndy Mercer Plank WISTV. And still